News Corp executive chairman and, most importantly, owner of Fox News, Rupert Murdoch, is making clear what he expects should come from the midterm elections in this tweet. Election polls mostly very close, but something very wrong if no Republican wave. So there he's saying that right now the polls aren't in line with what he expects to happen, which is interesting in its own right. We also have the owner of, well, many media outlets, but I'm going to focus on Fox News, that still tries to say that it's legitimate, it's not biased in any way, saying that it would be wrong if there wasn't a Republican wave, which is also interesting as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just logical. All he's doing is logic. So if races are really tight, they should all go Republican.
Obviously.
That's what he's saying. That's a good logic, right? So just like same thing when Mitt Romney, all the polling data showed that he was way ahead for Fox News, and then he didn't win. So it definitely was something's up.
Well, I mean, it could logically make sense, I suppose, if you were to look at the polls and say, okay, so the polls say that it's a tight race, but we know from these past midterm elections that Republicans tend to participate at higher rates than are expected, something like that, then you can make the case. But of course, modern-day political pollsters are sophisticated enough, especially at at 538 and things like that, where they do take into account those things. You should be able to trust, for the most part, the polls. But the thing that I think is interesting is that you have him saying there that there should be a Republican wave, and certainly people expect that the Republicans are going to do at least pretty well in this election. They're going to gain seats, probably in both houses. They might even take control of the Senate.
Which is remarkable.
Which is remarkable, of course. But I think what's remarkable on the other side is President Obama has a very low approval rate. So generally, when a president has an approval rating as low as this, when people are opposed to the party that's at least nominally in power, even if they can't achieve anything, you would expect them to be doing even better than they are. So I think they're actually underperforming compared to historically how they should, considering the approval rating of the president, the fact that the economy is improving but hardly doing very well for lower class and middle class Americans. I think he should be happy that they're doing as well as they are. Am I wrong?
Barack Obama was supposed to lose to Mitt Romney. He really was, right? Bad economy, incumbent president always loses.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
The instability that people feel, whether it be related to healthcare or related to disease or terrorism, it just feeds the anti-incumbency nationwide, and it's a safe bet for Rupert Murdoch to say that. I don't think people know how to link this idea of the income gap and how to fix that and how voting affects that. I mean, it's a complicated economic situation to really, and I don't think we as a collective society are informed enough to really dive into those numbers and figure that out. I think they vote very superficially on these things. I think people feel scared in the absence of leadership, where there is no plan and where there is this instability. People are going to throw the bums out.
No, you are correct about that. People don't know. They feel economically insecure. They know that corporations and the military-industrial complex and Wall Street are back to making record profits.
That's right.
And so the business is doing really well in America, but the workers aren't doing very well in America, and they feel that. So they know, but they don't know how to fix it. They don't know exactly who do I vote for to fix it, because the Republicans keep saying cut taxes, and the guy in the news tells me that works sometimes, I guess. And so they really don't know. I had a guy tell me the other night, very smart entertainer, said that what we need to do is sit down in a room with guys like the head of Apple and the head of Microsoft, all that, and ask them to make stuff here. That was his idea. That's what we have. That's the only way that it works, is if you ask them to start making stuff here, which sounds like childish thought, right? Which it kind of is, right? It's not an economic. If that's all it took, they would fucking be doing it already, right? That's all it took.
Right.
But Barack Obama just won't fly to Seattle. He just won't go over there. He just won't sit down and
they're not at the White House at all, ever. Those folks.
No, those guys don't have any access. Those guys. So so people, it is complicated. What do we do? Well, the simplest idea, the first step we have to do to kind of match up our economy with its workers is to get money out of politics.
So right now, it's, there's instability and insecurity. We're scared of these things. But when I think back to the last presidential election, there was a lot of fear and instability then. During 2008, we were worried still about, can we actually get out of Iraq and stuff? We've just had, this economic collapse, there's instability then. When was the last period where everyone was just feeling good and nobody was scared of a foreign, like a problem in a foreign country, a disease, the economy?
1996.
I was going to say 1976.
No, it was,
I remember the bicentennial.
Oh, I remember.
It was so fun. The Reds, the Cincinnati Reds, won the World Series.
That's right.
That was a great time.
Yeah.
That was a great year. There was no fear.
worries about terrorism.
None.
No oil crisis, no hostage crisis.
was
You know,
healthy.
I think it's an interesting. What's different now is there are many things that are different now, but I think, it takes a certain amount of hubris to be a president, and it takes a kind of performance skill to act as if you're in charge when you don't necessarily have all the answers. And whether you're FDR or George W. Bush did it very well too. He didn't really know, but he had that swag, and he came out, and I think in the face of fear, at least you felt like there was some idiot in charge. Here, I feel like playing it cool is probably never a good idea in the face of crisis. You have to at least step up and assert some kind of command. And that calms people.
Yeah.
That gives them a sense that someone's at the wheel.
So are you saying that Chris Christie's kind of doing the right thing?
I kind of feel that he's doing the right thing, even though, and it's a PR-ish, it's very, very clever and smart. And Cuomo is doing this, he's doing the same thing too, is step up in the absence of something in this vacuum that's been created, and say, it's this very sort of like states' rights thing. We're going to do it our way. The states are going to do it this way because the federal government's not telling us what to do, and there's no policy. And the CDC is, they're the people who tell us to take 1 aspirin a day. Like, what? Why would I be concerned about what they have to say? So you're going to see more governors do the same thing.
Yeah. Trying to assert their own individual authority.
Illinois did too.
Yeah, Illinois did too.
Good times. You know what happens in good times, right? Corporations take over and take more power and more money, which is 1996. Bill Clinton passed the Telecommunications Act, which is what led to us needing to do this show, right? So used to be laws that you couldn't own a TV station, a radio station, and a newspaper in the same market because we understand we need diversity of opinions, and they decided we don't need that anymore.
Here's what I
the
will.
repeal of Glass-Steagall.
And the repeal, and then that led
cutting
quickly.
of
That went quickly to the repeal of all the banking regulations. You get rid of the watchdog.
Good
now
times
we
are
can
bad for you, apparently.
What's that?
Good times are bad.
Good times are bad, right? So we get rid
Militarily, it was good.
get rid of the watchdog, then we can change all the rules for the banking. We all make trillions of dollars, crash the economy, and make the workers pay for it. And then when the economy recovers, fuck them out of their share of it.
Yeah. Ouch.
What's different too, and then I'll let you move on with your own show. Is that, I mean, you have this media industrial complex, which we didn't have then, and is really, even when we started The Daily Show in 1996, MSNBC was fledgling, Fox News was barely on the radar, and CNN was probably pretty much our main target for media satire. And look how much has changed. It's not even been that long, where now these industries of 24-hour news are beyond anyone's sort of kind of expectation, or we didn't predict that this would happen.
Yeah.
So remember, very few people watch these cable news channels.
That's true.
And so every tiny little thread of what's wrong gets yanked at and pulled at until it feels like everything's coming unraveled, when it's not really. It's just, how else are you going to sustain 24-hour day news channels that are also competing with each other to scare their audiences the most, so they'll watch them. And so it just it distorts our reality. So what I'd like to say to you is that things are good.
Okay.
Things are, if they're good in your world, man, they're okay.
They actually are good in my world. Thank you for reminding me of that.